to actually release a jaguar.
Because of the politics?
No,
Or just the
it took
logistics?
us so long to find jaguars. And how do you move jaguars? Nobody had ever moved jaguars.
In the swamps of Argentina, scientists tried a bold plan that no one could fully predict. They released South America's biggest predator into a wetland that had already been damaged by human activity and changes in nature. At first, it looked like a simple way to fix the balance of the ecosystem, but nature does not always follow human plans. As the predator moved through the water and tall grass, small changes began to appear, and it slowly grew into something bigger and more serious. So, what exactly is this plan, and how can it restore an entire ecosystem? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. The shocking aftermath of Argentina's release into its swamps. The Ibarra wetlands in northeastern Argentina were once one of the richest natural places in South America. The name Ibarra means shining waters, and for a long time, the area lived up to that name. Water covered huge areas of land, animals moved freely, birds filled the sky, thick grass covered the ground. Rivers, lakes, and marshes connected and created a place full of life. Thousands of different animals and plants lived there. Capybaras rested near the water. Marsh deer walked through the wetlands. Giant anteaters searched for insects. Giant river otters hunted in the rivers. Hundreds of bird species nested in the grasslands. At the top of all these animals stood one important hunter, the jaguar. For many years, this balance worked well. Predators hunted prey. Plant eaters ate grass. Nature stayed in balance because every animal had a role. But this started changing when human activity grew bigger. During the 20th century, hunting increased across the region. People hunted animals for fur, meat, or because they believed some animals caused problems. Farmers expanded cattle ranches into natural areas. Grasslands were burned to create space for livestock. More land was changed by people. Slowly, the wetlands started losing their balance. The jaguar suffered more than many other animals. Farmers saw jaguars as threats because they sometimes attacked livestock. Because of this, jaguars were hunted heavily. Over time, they disappeared from the area completely. By around the middle of the century, jaguars were gone from Corrientes province. The loss of jaguars created a problem many people did not fully understand at first. When the top predator disappears, the whole system changes. Capybaras stayed behind. They were not invasive animals. They had always lived there, but now there was almost nothing controlling their numbers. Their population started growing quickly. Large groups gathered around water areas. They spent long hours eating grass and plants. Each capybara eats a large amount of food every day. When hundreds gather in one area, they remove huge amounts of vegetation. Grass became shorter. Some places lost much of their plant cover. Areas that once gave shelter to birds and insects became open spaces. Bird nests became easier for predators to find. Small animals lost hiding places. Soil and ground temperatures changed. Wetland plants struggled in heavily grazed areas. The problem was not only about capybaras. It showed what happens when an ecosystem loses balance. For many decades, the wetlands continued changing. Other animals disappeared too. Giant river otters became rare. Macaws disappeared from the skies. Peccaries vanished from some places. Nature kept losing pieces of itself. People tried different solutions over the years, but many did not work well. Some efforts were temporary, others were too small. Many believed the damage had gone too far. Then, something unexpected happened. Two people from the business world became interested in protecting nature. They were not government leaders. They were not scientists leading research projects. They had spent years building successful companies, but later they changed direction. They began buying damaged land across Argentina and Chile. Many people became suspicious. Large amounts of private land were being purchased by foreigners. Questions started spreading. People wondered why wealthy outsiders wanted huge areas of land. But instead of building businesses or large developments, they focused on restoration. Old ranches were bought, damaged lands were protected. Large sections of wetlands were slowly brought together under conservation projects. In Ibarra, huge areas of former ranch land were restored. Large parts later became protected national park land. The goal was simple but difficult: bring nature back, restore animals, restore plants, restore balance. This work would take years, maybe decades, but one thing became clear: saving Ibarra would require bringing back more than grass and water. It would require bringing back the animals that once controlled the ecosystem itself. But saving the land was only the beginning. If the wetlands were going to survive, one dangerous question remained. Could the animal that once ruled Ibarra return after being gone for nearly 70 years? And what would happen when humans and jaguars had to share the land again? Let's delve deeper. The return of the jaguar and the fight for recovery. Restoring the wetlands was never only about protecting land. The bigger challenge was bringing life back into the system. Conservation teams knew that if important species stayed missing, true recovery would be difficult. One animal stood above all others: the jaguar. Bringing back jaguars was risky. Jaguars are powerful predators. They need large territories. They can come into conflict with humans. Releasing them too quickly could create major problems. Because of this, special preparation areas were built inside the wetlands. These spaces were large and isolated. Human contact stayed very limited. Jaguars had to behave like wild animals from the beginning. The animals learned to hunt natural prey. They hunted capybaras, pigs, and other animals found in the wetlands. Conservation workers watched carefully using cameras and tracking collars. Jaguars that depended too much on people would not be released. Another challenge was genetics. Argentina had very few wild jaguars left. Using only one small group could create future problems through inbreeding. So jaguars were brought from different places across South America. This created stronger genetic diversity and improved the chances of survival. Years of work slowly produced results. After decades without jaguars, new cubs were born. Eventually, jaguars returned to the wild wetlands. Conservation teams had already tested smaller restoration projects first. Giant anteaters returned earlier and survived. More animals followed. Deer returned to the grasslands. Peccaries came back. Macaws flew again across the sky. Giant river otters slowly returned to waterways. Still, one problem remained. Plant-eating animals continued growing in number. The return of jaguars changed this. Interestingly, jaguars did not need to attack huge numbers of prey to create change. Their presence alone changed animal behavior. Capybaras moved differently. They avoided some open areas. They spent less time feeding in certain places. Fear returned to the landscape. This changed the wetlands. Grass started growing taller in some places. Vegetation became thicker. Birds gained more nesting areas. Smaller animals found shelter again. Scientists and conservation teams started seeing signs that the natural balance was slowly returning. Then, disaster struck. In 2022, severe drought and extreme heat hit the region. Wetlands that normally stayed wet dried out. Fire spread across huge areas. Massive sections of land burned. Animals faced danger everywhere. Some had to be tracked closely to make sure they survived. Conservation teams used boats, drones, and cameras to search burned areas. Many people feared decades of work would disappear, but recovery continued. Jaguars survived and kept breeding. More cubs appeared, populations increased. The fact that cubs were being born naturally mattered most because it showed that the animals no longer depended fully on people. The restoration also changed local communities. Tourists started arriving. Wildlife watching created jobs. New businesses opened. Guides, boat operators, photographers, and lodge workers found new opportunities. Animals that once created fear slowly became economic value. People who once doubted the project started seeing benefits. Wildlife became connected to local pride. Communities that depended heavily on ranching found new ways to earn money. Today, Ibarra still faces problems. Climate change remains a threat. Fires may happen again. Human conflict still exists. But after many decades, the wetlands are no longer only a lost story. They are also a story about recovery, patience, and the difficult work of bringing nature back. after humans pushed it close to collapse. After the wetlands began showing early signs of recovery and jaguars slowly returned after decades of absence, the big question became this: could a single predator truly restore balance to an entire ecosystem? Let's find out how one predator helped bring a broken wetland back to life. For many years, people thought jaguars might never return to the wetlands again, and many believed the damage done to nature had gone too far to fix. But slowly, things started changing. After years of work, the first major sign of hope appeared when jaguar cubs were born in the region again after nearly 70 years without them. This was a huge moment because it showed that the animals were not only surviving, but also starting families and creating new generations. One young female jaguar named Arami became an important symbol of this change. Her birth gave people hope that bringing jaguars back might actually work. As time passed, conservation workers moved to the next step. Jaguars that had spent years preparing for life in the wild were finally released into the wetlands. This was an important moment because releasing predators into nature is never easy. Jaguars need large spaces to live. They need food. They need to stay away from people. Once they entered the wild, people watched closely to see what would happen next. The early results surprised many people. Jaguars survived in their new environment and slowly started spreading through the wetlands again. More animals were born in the wild without direct human help. This mattered because true recovery does not happen when people constantly manage animals. Recovery happens when animals survive and reproduce on their own. By 2024, dozens of jaguars were already moving freely through the ecosystem. The population kept growing in the years after that. Reports suggested that by 2026, around 50 jaguars had been identified across the wetlands. For an animal that had disappeared completely from the region, this was a major comeback. It showed that restoration projects can work when they are supported for long periods and when wildlife gets enough space to recover. The return of jaguars changed more than wildlife numbers. It also changed local communities and how people earned money. For a long time, many towns near the wetlands depended mostly on cattle ranching, hunting, and using natural resources from the land. Economic opportunities were often limited. Some young people left small communities to search for work elsewhere. As wildlife returned, visitors started coming too. Tourists wanted to see jaguars, birds, wetlands, and rare animals that had become difficult to find in other places. This created new opportunities for people living near the wetlands. New jobs started appearing. Some people became wildlife guides. Others worked in tourism businesses, transportation, conservation projects, hotels, restaurants, and parks. More workers became involved in scientific monitoring and wildlife protection. In some areas, people who once hunted animals for income found work helping visitors find wildlife instead. Money from tourism slowly became connected to healthy ecosystems. Animals that once brought fear or conflict started bringing jobs and income. Jaguars especially became valuable because people traveled long distances hoping to see them in the wild. These economic changes also affected how local communities viewed conservation. In the past, some people questioned whether restoration projects would help them. Over time, many communities started seeing direct benefits. Wildlife protection was no longer only about saving animals. It also became connected to jobs, business opportunities, and community growth. The wetlands themselves remain one of the most important natural areas in South America. Thousands of species live there. Birds, mammals, reptiles, fish, insects, and plants all depend on this environment. Because so many species share the same ecosystem, protecting the wetlands helps protect much more than a single animal. The return of jaguars became important because predators help shape ecosystems. Their presence affects how other animals behave and move. This creates changes that spread through many parts of nature. The recovery of one species can sometimes help many others. Today, many people see the wetlands as proof that damaged ecosystems can improve again. Recovery did not happen quickly. It took years of planning, protection, funding, and patience. Challenges still exist, and long-term success will depend on continued support and careful management. Even with these challenges, The return of jaguars shows that ecosystems do not always stay broken forever. When habitats are protected and wildlife is given time to recover, nature can sometimes rebuild itself. The wetlands are still changing, but the return of one powerful predator has already shown that recovery is possible when people decide to give nature another chance. With jaguars back in the wetlands and nature beginning to recover, the question now is, what changes would follow next when predators reshape the land? And how would people living nearby cope with the return of such a powerful animal? Let's learn more. The return of the jaguar and the slow rebalancing of the Ibarra wetlands. Jaguar reintroduction into the Ibarra wetlands began when a female jaguar named Mariua was released into the wild in 2021 with her young cubs, and one of them was named Arami. This moment marked the first time in about 70 years that jaguars were seen living freely in the area again. The release was done carefully after many years of preparation. Before this step, jaguars were kept in controlled spaces where they were trained to survive in natural conditions. They had to learn how to hunt, move, and avoid danger without human help. Some of the jaguars came from zoos and rescue centers in different parts of South America. At first, the program faced many difficulties because some animals were not well suited for breeding or survival in the wild. Many were closely related or too used to human care. This made early breeding slow and difficult. Over time, younger and stronger jaguars were added to the program. This helped improve results, and cubs began to be born in controlled environments where they could grow and learn survival skills before being released. After the jaguars entered the wild, changes in animal behavior started to appear across the wetlands. Capybaras, which are large plant-eating animals, began to behave more carefully. They reduced the time they spent in open grass areas and started avoiding places where jaguars were active. This change in movement helped reduce pressure on vegetation. Grass and plants that had been heavily eaten for many years slowly began to recover. As plant life improved, the entire wetland started to look healthier again. Other animals also contributed to this recovery in different ways. River otters helped control fish populations in the water, which supported better growth of aquatic plants. Peccaries spread seeds as they moved through forests, helping new plants grow in different areas. Macaws and anteaters also played roles in maintaining balance in the environment by supporting natural food cycles. All these small actions together helped rebuild a more stable ecosystem where different species supported each other. Even with these improvements, the return of jaguars also created challenges for people living near the wetlands. Some farmers and ranchers experienced losses when jaguars attacked livestock. For these families, even small losses affected their income and daily survival. Because of this, some people became worried and afraid of living close to a large predator. There were also concerns about safety and how land would be shared between humans and wildlife. Efforts were made to reduce these problems by encouraging better protection of livestock and by supporting communities with new ways to adapt. However, not all people benefited equally from the return of wildlife. Some gained income through tourism, while others still faced losses and risks. This created a situation where success in nature did not always feel like success for everyone. The return of jaguars brought major changes to the wetlands. Their presence affected how other animals behaved and moved, which helped plants and habitats recover over time. The ecosystem slowly became more balanced as natural relationships between animals returned. However, this recovery also showed that bringing back wildlife is not only about nature. It also involves people who live in the same land. When predators return, both benefits and difficulties appear at the same time. Some people gain new opportunities, while others face new problems. Because of this, long-term success depends on how well humans and wildlife can live together, manage conflict, and share the same environment in a fair way. If bringing back the jaguar can reshape an entire wetland, what happens when scientists also return the smaller hunters that were lost long ago? Keep watching to find out more. Restoring balance in the wetlands, the return of the ocelot, and the repair of a broken ecosystem. A long time ago, ocelots lived in this wetland area, but they slowly disappeared because of human hunting and changes in the land. After they were gone, the balance of nature changed. Some animals became too many, while others became too few. This caused problems in how the land and animals lived together. Birds that lay eggs on the ground became more exposed to danger. Small predators like foxes increased in number and began to put more pressure on bird nests and other small animals. Over time, scientists began to see that something important was missing in the system. That missing part was a mid-level hunter like the ocelot. To fix this problem, conservation teams started a plan to bring the ocelot back into the wild. But this was not simple. They did not just take any animal and release it. Many of the ocelots they used came from rescue centers in nearby countries. Some were injured after being hit by cars. Some had been kept illegally by people. Others were found weak or sick in captivity. Because of this, the animals first needed care and healing before they could return to the wild. Each ocelot went through a careful process. First, they were kept in safe medical areas where doctors checked their health. This step made sure they did not carry diseases that could damage other animals in the wetland. After they became stable, they were moved to large fenced forest areas that looked like the wild. These spaces were not small cages. They were big and filled with trees, grass, and water, so that the animals could move and behave more naturally. At first, the ocelots were still given food by humans. This helped them recover their strength. But slowly, this support was reduced. The goal was to make them depend on their own skills again. Small animals like mice, frogs, and birds became their first natural prey inside these training areas. Over time, the challenge became harder. The ocelots had to learn how to hunt bigger animals and survive without help. Only those that showed strong hunting ability and good survival behavior were chosen for release into the wild wetland. Once released, the ocelots were expected to play an important role in nature again. They are not the top hunters in the food chain, but they are very important middle hunters. They eat many small animals, and this helps control their numbers. When these small animals become too many, they can damage plants, disturb bird nests, and change how the land looks. So the ocelot helps keep this under control. Another important role of the ocelot is how it affects fox populations. Foxes are also small to medium-sized hunters, and when there are too many foxes, they can threaten bird eggs and young birds. The ocelot competes with foxes and can also hunt them. Because of this, fox numbers can go down or stay balanced. This helps protect birds that nest on the ground and other small wildlife that are at risk when fox numbers grow too high. The idea behind all this work is that nature works like a connected system. If one important animal is removed, other parts of the system begin to change in ways that can cause damage. When predators like the ocelot are missing, the animals they normally control can grow too much. This leads to overgrazing, loss of plant life, and fewer safe places for birds and other animals. But when the ocelot is brought back, it helps restart the natural balance. Scientists believe that restoring just one type of animal is not enough. They say the whole system must be repaired step by step. Bigger hunters help control large plant-eating animals. Smaller hunters like ocelots help control medium and small animals. Together, they keep the system stable. When both are present, the land becomes healthier, and more types of animals can live there safely. In simple terms, the return of the ocelot is not just about saving one animal. It is about fixing a broken system. After seeing how the removal and return of key predators can reshape an entire ecosystem, what happens when we look beyond one species and focus on the wider human, economic, and environmental forces that continue to shape nature today? Let's take a closer look. Restoring nature. How rewilding, farming, and community action shape the future of ecosystems. Rewilding means helping nature heal after it has been disturbed by people. It is about bringing back animals and plants that used to live in a place but are gone now. When they return, they do not live strangely. They go back to their normal life in the wild. They eat food, they hunt, they move around, and they try to survive like before. These simple actions help nature stay balanced. Nature works like a chain. Everything is connected. Plants, animals, land, and water all depend on each other. If one part of this chain is missing, the whole system becomes weak. When many animals and plants disappear, nature starts to fail. Some animals become too many because nothing is controlling them. Some animals die out because they have no food or a safe place. Plants also suffer because the land is not healthy. Rewilding tries to fix this by slowly bringing back missing animals and plants so the land can work again. Rewilding is not only about putting animals back into forests or wetlands, it is about letting nature work on its own again, without humans controlling everything. The idea is simple. If nature is complete, it can take care of itself. A big problem today is large-scale farming. In many places, forests and wild land are cleared, so crops can be planted. Trees are cut down. Grasslands are turned into farmland. This change happens fast and over very large areas. When this happens, animals lose their homes. Birds, insects, and wild animals have no safe place to live. They also lose food. Because of this, fewer kinds of living things remain in the area. This is called loss of biodiversity. It means nature becomes less rich and less full of life. The soil also becomes weak. This is because natural plants that protect the ground are gone. Without these plants, the land becomes dry and poor over time. Land that once had many living things slowly becomes empty or damaged. This shows a problem between farming and nature. People need farms to grow food and earn money. But when farming grows too much, it destroys forests and wild land. This makes it hard to balance human needs and nature's needs. Local people are very important in fixing this problem. People who live near forests, rivers, and wetlands use the land every day. Instead of cutting trees or hunting animals, they can be helped to find other ways to earn money. One way is ecotourism. This is when people visit natural places to see animals and nature. Local people can earn money by guiding visitors and helping them. This gives them a reason to protect nature. It also helps them see that wildlife is valuable when it is alive. Government support is also needed. Governments can make rules to protect land and animals. They can also help local people with money and plans for the future. When governments and local people work together, nature protection becomes stronger. The main goal of rewilding is to bring balance back to nature. Animals and plants must live together in a simple and working system. Some animals eat plants, so there must also be hunters to control their numbers. Without hunters, plant-eating animals grow too many and destroy the land. When hunters are present, they keep numbers in balance. Plants grow back. The land becomes healthy again. More plants also mean more food and shelter for other animals. Slowly, life starts to support life again. The goal is not only to save one animal or one plant, it is to fix the whole system so it works again. In the end, the aim is a world where nature is strong, animals are free, and people live in a way that does not destroy the land. If restoring ecosystems depends on reintroducing key species and rebuilding natural balance, what happens when the very laws meant to protect those ecosystems are weakened or removed? Let's find out. Argentina's environmental laws under pressure. Forest loss, politics, and the future of nature. Northern Argentina has large areas of wild forests that are still in their natural state. These forests are very important because they help clean the air by taking in harmful gases from the atmosphere. They also protect the land by reducing floods and stopping landslides. Wetlands in different parts of the country also support many animals and help keep nature balanced. These places are not only important for animals, but also for people living nearby because they help keep the environment safe and stable. For many years, Argentina has made laws to protect forests, wetlands, and glaciers. These laws stopped people from cutting down too many trees, burning land freely, or carrying out mining in sensitive areas. The aim was to protect nature and make sure it is not destroyed too quickly. These rules helped slow down damage to the environment and kept many natural areas safe. Now, there is a political change. The new leadership wants to remove or weaken these protection laws. They believe that strict environmental rules are slowing down the country's economy. They say Argentina needs more freedom for farming, mining, and land use in order to grow economically. Because of this, they want to reduce the power of environmental laws. Some environmental groups disagree strongly. They say that removing these laws will mainly help rich business people who own large areas of land. Many of these lands are still covered with forests that are protected by law. If the rules are removed, these forests could be cleared for farming and other businesses. In places like Salta, some land has already been cleared for cattle and soy farming, but large forest areas still remain. People are worried that these remaining forests will also be cut down if the laws change. This could lead to more loss of trees and animals. Near big cities like Buenos Aires, wetlands are also being turned into building sites. Animals that once lived there are losing their homes. Many experts warn that if this continues, nature will be damaged very fast and many species will disappear. What do you think about Argentina's attempt to balance the ecosystem? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for following this story about Argentina's forests, wetlands, and the growing debate over environmental protection. If it changes how you see nature, development, and the future of our planet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video to explore more stories. See you there.